this morning. And one of the things I've always been taught, I'm fortunate to have an economics and politics degree, and I've always been interested in the theory behind entrepreneurship, how the economy works. And one of the things I'm always taught is, if you have a good idea, it's only one part of the bargain. It's no use having a good idea if you don't have a market to sell your product. If you don't have a market, you can have all the best ideas in the world, they'll fail. Brothers and sisters, here's a wee idea. We have a national health service that we are all very proud of. We have a national health service that we believe puts people before profit. You don't need money in order to get the best possible health care. That's the very nexus, that's the very orthodoxy of the health service. Brothers and sisters, why then? Why in this public national health service are we ripped off every single day by the privately owned pharmaceutical industry? Why? We have got some of the most advanced research and development facilities in the world. We have got some of the best universities in the world. We have got some of the best manufacturing capacity in the world. Brothers and sisters, why do we have a publicly owned pharmaceutical industry that's got a market, and that market is the publicly owned health service, so that we research, we develop, we produce drugs, not for profit, but for health. That's the type of idea that surely we have to inject into the independence movement to raise the vision, to raise the prospect of a new and a better society. Brothers and sisters, I spoke far too long already. I apologise for that, but I want to just finish with just a couple of points. I read a wee report the other day there, and it was about a country that went bust, just like we did. A country that went bust with the economic collapse of 2008, went bankrupt. Just like that. And guess what? You may say to yourself, well, did they do what we did? Did they bail out the banks? And of course, the truth is, they didn't bail them out. They jailed them. They jailed the bankers. And you know what else? They jailed some of the top politicians that were connected to the banks. And you know what they did? They sacked the parliament. And they set about the construction of a new constitution for the country that enshrined that the financial system would never again be in the hands of a tiny minority who would manipulate it for their own ends. That country is now economically better off than it was before the crash. That country is now producing more per head of the population than us. That country took a decision 2 weeks ago, a very proud decision, to be the first country in Europe to officially recognise the state of Palestine. Brothers and sisters, that country is Iceland. That country is smaller than us. That country doesn't have the resources that we've got. If they can do that, why can't we? I was looking up the statistics. I wanted to bring them to the table here tonight, because one of the questions I got asked on RT recently was on the eve of the Over Fear demonstration, 19th of September, to celebrate 1 year on from the referendum. And the guy from RT said to me, "It isn't the case, Mr. Sheridan. You're arguing for independence. Now that the oil and gas office. Isn't it the case that your independent Scotland would have a £10 billion deficit? Now you hear that, you think, oh, God, amazing, £10 billion deficit. I've got two things to say about that, brothers. Two things. Number one, see in independent Scotland, I don't mind being in a deficit if it's because we're giving our pensioners a decent pension. £10 billion is a drop in the ocean. There's no economy in the world that doesn't have a deficit. Every economy has a deficit. Having a deficit as a country isn't an economic problem. It's servicing the deficit that can become a problem, and £10 billion wouldn't be that problem. You want a deficit? Here's your deficit. UK Incorporated. Go and look it up online. Current deficit isn't 10 billion, isn't 100 billion. It's 1.5 trillion pounds deficit. And here's the problem. We've got a 1.5 trillion deficit, while a million are relying on food banks, while 2 million are in zero-hour contracts, but we are bailing out bloody bankers. Finishing this point, brothers and sisters. Nicola Sturgeon said during the general election campaign that the timing of a second referendum would be dictated by the people and events. I'm going to say to you, I think we as an independence movement have a duty to reach out to all of the political parties that are pro-independence parties and argue that they place in their manifestos a commitment to a second referendum. If we get a mandate in 2016, there are then a set of local government elections in 2017, we've got a free year, 2018. Why don't we target 2018 for the second referendum? Some people say, oh, it's too late, we should be doing it sooner. Some people say, it's too early. I think it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity based on securing the mandate next year that sets us up in 2017 with the local authority elections to maintain that mandate and then to fight in 2018 for an independence referendum.
Am I speaking?
I'd love to take that question up and take it up in terms of the questions and answers, because it's a very good question. But you see, Nicola said the people and events. And here's what I'll finish, brothers and sisters. I'm 51 years of age. I know there's gasps around the walls. What? I'm 51 years. Some of you will be a wee bit more mature and some will be not as old. Who, at 51 years of age, would ever have predicted that a UK general election, the Labour Party in Scotland, would be just to win? My point, brothers and sisters, is if that's not an event, I don't know what is. That has to be the event which justifies every party now putting the second referendum into the manifestos and every party seeking the mandate next year to call that referendum, preferably by 2018. Brothers and sisters, I'm going to finish in saying this. There's an old Labour movement banner which I think we can take some inspiration from an independence movement. Some of you may have heard me make this point before, but the wonderful banner, I think we should repeat it all the time. It's a banner that reads, the past we inherit, the future we build.
questions for Tommy that we've got, I guess, some questions in. But if I could just ask you, please don't just shout out, put your hand up so we can come and pick you out. We'll get to you ready. Just don't shout out above each other, because then we miss questions, we miss answers, and we can waste time. So if you just put your hand up for a question, we'll get to you quick as we can. Thank you. Please.
Hi Tommy, my name's Claire, across the branch SN3. As I was saying, what happens if we get pulled out of Europe against our will? If Scotland votes to stay in and England votes to come out?
What would you prefer? Do you want me to try and come back to the question straight away, or will I take 2 or 3 and then come back to you? What would you prefer? Just answer questions. Claire, I'm glad you have asked that question, because again, in the course of the referendum campaign, I think there were a few weaknesses that we've got to address so that we're winning this referendum. One of them is the currency. I don't know what everybody else thinks, but personally, I think the idea that we were committed to the maintenance of sterling in the Bank of England by the SNP was not acceptable. It was not acceptable. Because the independence movement wasn't consulted. We were told this is what independence will deliver. Well, I've got to say to you, I want to be independent. I don't want to be dependent on the Bank of bloody England. I want our own currency. We have got the wealth, we have got the economy, particularly in the food and beverages industry, but apart from that, our land and our energy, we've got more than enough to sustain our own currency. I think we have to learn not to allow ourselves to be sucked into that. I also thought the question, which the independence movement get committed to, and maybe a big question to everybody, I accept it's not. But you know, I heard representatives from SNP say, we're not going to get rid of the monarchy. We're just going to slim them down a bit, you know, they'll not have the same duties and powers. I've got to say, I'm not interested in putting the monarchy on a diet. I don't care whether it's slim fast or not. I don't want anyone who's unelected to have any power over what happens in Scotland. Yeah. I think it's completely, utterly archaic that I had to go in 1999, a modern parliament. This was the reforming of our parliament after 300 years. And I had to go into that parliament, and the first thing I had to do was lie. Lie. Because what I had to do was say, yes, I swear allegiance to the crown and all our lieges. I think I said lieges deliberately, but anyway. If somebody wants to swear that oath, fine, I'm not going to say that's wrong. But I don't believe in the monarchy. And according to everybody I speak to privately in that parliament at the time, they didn't believe in the monarchy either. So, by definition, they lied as well. So what we need is a modern parliament, where I go, if I'm ever elected to a parliament, I want to swear an oath to the people of Scotland. That's who you swear an oath. And this was something that upset me, Claire. Because you know, I want independence, you want independence. I don't want to change one dictatorship of Westminster to another dictatorship of Brussels. I just don't want to do that. And if anybody has any doubt, shadow of doubt whatsoever about the nature of the European Union, go and consult what's called the Copenhagen criteria. The Copenhagen criteria is what you have to accept before you're allowed to become a member of the European Union. And the first part of the criteria is that you are a market economy. Number two, that you will promote a market economy. I've got to say, brothers and sisters, it is hypocritical for me to stand on a platform and tell you I want the railways to be publicly owned, I want the gas to be publicly owned, I want the electricity to be publicly owned, and then say, but we're going to stay in the European Union, because we wouldn't be allowed to. We wouldn't be allowed to. The European Union forced us, I remember when I was in the Parliament, forced us to tender for the Caledonian McBrain ferry services, a lifeline bloody service, but they forced us to tender for it because it was anti-competitive for the government to subsidise a lifeline ferry service. I've got to say, if Norway, if Iceland, if other countries can have bilateral trade agreements without being members of the European Union, why can't Scotland do the same? I am not prepared to allow, again, the independence movement to be committed to, oh yeah, we want independence from Westminster, but we also want to stay in the European Union so that we're actually dependent on what Brussels tells us. Now, when it comes to this referendum or social up in 2017, I certainly will be involved in a left-wing alternative, a left-wing argument. I want a people's Europe. I want a social Europe. Yeah. I want a Europe that puts people before profit. I don't want a big business Europe. That's what we're going off of the new. And from my point of view, I think it's important the independence movement is flexible enough to recognise that there will be some people within our big tent, there will be some people who think we should stay in Europe, and there will be some people who think we should leave. I think we should leave. I think the SNP was wrong to effectively commit the independence movement. Oh, we're pro-European Union. I'm sorry, no, I'm not pro-European Union, I'm pro-independence. And I don't think the two of them are actually good bedfellows, because I don't think they are independent. You can't take decisions to subsidise your steel industry. You can't take decisions to subsidise your shipbuilding industry if you're also in the European Union, because it would be anti-competitive. You wouldn't be allowed to do it. I've never thought that we should be a member of an economic club that told us that we couldn't actually invest in our own industry. That's just lying as far as I'm concerned.